When you're at parties out in the world, you always ask, what do you do? And as an accountant or somebody in finance, you go, yeah, I'm an accountant, but they have to describe no, it's not boring and technical. So I got tired of kind of hearing that. So I wanted to create a book that has a hero as an accountant.
Greg is a CPA for over 25 years. He has held senior finance positions, CFO, COO, and director.
The FP&A department, they have to work with everybody in the organization.
Can you describe what great FP&A looks like?
Presenting a good story, change behavior, to improve performance, but more importantly, gathering information and data, not only internal data, but also external data from various sources. And it just makes us more efficient and immediately see trends rather than telling the story of what happened. They're expecting to say, okay, what's going to happen? Now that's the art.
What advice would you offer to our audience to be a better FP&A business partner?
First of all, come into the office. Biggest advice would probably be get up.
And now a brief message from our title sponsor, Workday. Are you looking for an EPM solution that will give your business the agility, connectivity, and scalability it needs to succeed? With powerful AI, Workday Adaptive Planning delivers insights that help you make better decisions faster. Our advanced data visualization and powerful reporting tools make it easy to elevate your budgeting, planning, and modeling. See it for yourself at www.workday.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to FP&A Tomorrow. This is the podcast where we delve into the world of financial planning and analysis, examining its current state and future prospects. I'm your host, Paul Barnhurst, aka the FP&A Guy. Each week, we're joined by thought leaders, industry experts, and practitioners who share their insights and experiences, helping us navigate today's complexities and tomorrow's uncertainties. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting your journey in FP&A, this show has something for everyone. This week, I'm thrilled to be joined on the show by Greg Adams. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. I'm very excited to join you and look forward to our discussion.
I do too. I know we only just recently met at Fate, and I got your book there, and we got to chat a little bit. I thought it'd be great to have you on the show. Got a little bit of bio. We'll do a little bit of background, and then we'll jump into the conversation here. So Greg is a CPA, so he has one on me. He is the SVP and CFO. I haven't been a CFO, so he has two on me, of the American Management Association. He has held senior finance positions, CFO, COO, and director for over 25 years in both the public and private sector. Greg is also an author, having released a financial resource-oriented guidebook in the form of an international crime thriller. We'll get into that, titled Green Shades. But not only green shades, but the dollar at the end. And it is, accountants aren't supposed to die this way. I don't like to die at all. Okay, so for 3 of his 11 years, he spent in public accounting. They were at KPMG. He lived in Sydney, which is one of the key areas setting for his protagonist adventures in this book. His leadership mission is to help employees and business leaders achieve corporate excellence. How was that for an intro?
That's fantastic, Paul. It's been a fun run.
Love it. So we start with a few standard questions at the beginning. And the first one here, in one sentence or less, how would you define FP&A?
I would define it as a trusted strategic financial advisor who will work with all departments, organizations to improve performance.
I like it. So basically a trusted advisor who works with the entire business to improve performance.
Exactly.
All right. So kind of along those lines, can you describe what great FP&A looks like? How do you know if you're accomplishing what you talked about there? What does it look like in an organization?
Well, what it looks like in an organization, and particularly organizations that I worked with and the excellent FP&A folks at my company, it's really presenting a good story to change behavior, to improve performance, but more importantly, gathering information and data, not only internal data, but also external data from various sources. And I think sometimes we miss on that, and that we are seeing on with data mining a lot of information, but we also need to look at it compared to the industry and compared to other performances. So yeah, I think that I was taught very young in my career that if you control information, you control the world. So that's what FP&A does.
Data is the new oil, and data becomes information, so to speak. So
That's
there's a
right.
lot we control there. And one other thing that stuck out to me is you talked about the external data. I was excited to see, and I think we'll see more of this. One of the big FP&A tools just bought a company that completely focused on helping senior leaders forecast the external environment. So they have like 5 million different data points they bring in, use a lot of AI. And one of the big FP&A tools just brought them to integrate into that planning process. And I think where AI is going and different things, we'll see more of that and more of that machine learning that goes beyond just, well, what was our historics? What are our numbers? And really looking externally more, because it can only improve what we're doing and make us aware of pitfalls and weaknesses.
Yeah, absolutely. And to build on that, I've been involved in my career. I've been very fortunate involved in my career. One of my CFO positions was in the late 1990s, right during the dot-com convergence of the dot-com and the convergence of the SEC's Edgar database as well. I was able to get very intimate and familiar with not only SEC filings that were now all being filed electronically and data mined through various APIs, but also I worked with the SEC and the various committees of XBRL International. And XBRL is Extensible Business Reporting Language. And many of our listeners may or may not know, but every SEC filing, whether it's a 10K, a 10Q, a Form 8K for material events, they have XBRL tags, which basically is barcoding all the information. And what you barcode information with XML tags, you can then rip that out and integrate it into your data presentation story, and then see the trends and compare yourself throughout the industry.
Well, that's great. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know about the XBRL, I will admit. So I can see where that could be really helpful in making it easier to get all that external public data.
Yeah. What really blew me away when I first saw XBRL and was really, again, is out of Seattle, came from there, through Microsoft guys, and they were playing with some Excel add-ins, and they were building spreadsheets, and they put in the ticker symbol, and all of a sudden information just populates that spreadsheet directly from the SEC's Edgar system. And you right click on a number, and all of a sudden you're jumping to that section of that filing, which was, to me, was remarkable.
It's amazing what technology can do. I mean, we're living in an age where it's just so rapid right now.
Oh, absolutely. Especially all the new AI tools, as you're very familiar with, Paul. It's,
I hear from a company almost every week. I saw a new one this morning that's doing some unique things with AI and kind of an interesting approach in finance. And it was fascinating to see and how they thought about it. It just amazes me all the different ways people can think about this. Because at the end of the day, whether it's reporting or planning or budgeting or analytics, how many different ways can you do it? And, there's some differences at its core. It's very similar, yet we have hundreds of different solutions of how to do it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And it just makes us more efficient, and we're able to step away now from creating a data entry work and immediately see trends. And that's the biggest thing, is I tell our staff, our FBA staff, is we need to add value. Historical data is great, and we all know the historical data, but what's going to happen going forward? And that's the art right there.
Yep, I agree. Two things that kind of came to mind as you said that is, one, I still remember Jack Alexander, if you know who that is. You might recognize that name. He wrote a book on FP&A. He tells the story where an analyst, brought him this data, and he goes, "Here's the analysis you wanted." And he flipped through it, and there was no recommendation, no nothing. He goes, "No, this is a report. There's no analysis here.
That's fine.
Like,
Yeah.
where's the recommendation or what we should be doing or how we should be thinking about this? He goes, that was the last time he ever brought me a report. He realized pretty quickly that I want your thoughts on this. Your job is to not just regurgitate what's out there, but give me more.
Yeah, exactly. I recently wrote an article for Accounting Today about how people in finance and finance leaders should leverage that art of storytelling. And it's basically 7 storytelling hints that is really an easy roadmap. The obvious one, know your audience. The second one, set the scene, set what's going on. Third is engage your audience. The fourth is make them care, and then the fifth is use some tension or conflict. Similar to my book. So this is kind of reeling into green shades. And the fifth is really know your punchline. What's the answer you want? I.e., what's the recommendation that you're going to deliver and that you want? And then, then the end with a really heartfelt conclusion. So it's the old spar with your partner, spar with your audience, which means identify the situation, identify the problem, create an action, which would then drive the result.
Love it. And when you think of storytelling, one of my favorite all-time books, I have the cover here, I have the book upstairs. You've ever read this, Effective Data Storytelling by Brent Dykes. Phenomenal. He gets into the psychology of why facts are not enough and you need to tell a story to replace the prior narrative your audience had, their prior story. Facts don't do that. And we're wired to learn things in stories in a lot of ways. And, he talks about how data storytelling is very different than telling a story with data. Like, there's the difference between the two. So if you ever get a chance, brilliant book. I had him on just a few weeks ago. The podcast, and he lives here locally. So we've got to be friends over the last couple of years as we both started our businesses about the same time. So fun.
He's preaching to the choir.
Yeah, he is. And he's done a ton of research. And so I love that when you can back it up versus not just an antidote. Well, I've heard this, but show me some evidence. And he does a good job of that, which I like.
Yeah.
So you're currently the SVP and CFO, I think, as you mentioned, of the American Management Association. So can you tell our audience a little bit of what AMA is, what its role in all this is? I know there's a number of different organizations out there with CPA and the different things. So maybe just spend a minute and kind of walk through how to think of AMA.
Yeah, I think of AMA. First of all, the American Management Association is a non-for-profit education training company. Been around for over a century. Last year we celebrated our 100th anniversary. And it's really about teaching employees to bring about positive change in their behavior, which then will drive results at your company. And for a finance person, I consider these to be soft skills, or I like to label them power skills. These power skills, whether it's communication and presentation skills, critical thinking, business acumen, leadership skills, it all leads to making the worker better. So AMA is been a tremendous organization for me to work with. I've been here 5 years. Most people have worked here, it's probably been 20, 25 years. It's a great not-for-profit. We're based in New York City. We've educated millions of people over those centuries in 100 different countries. Part of my role too is I've worked with all our international affiliates that they report to me. So it's I don't want to say it's teaching the American management style, but it's basically teaching those power skills that really I think are critical for the advancement for every employee. And unfortunately, some companies don't invest enough in their employees through training, and that should happen as an automatic thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'd say a lot of companies, it's always the first budget to cut, and everybody's like, I don't have time. And the reality is, if you really develop a good program and a culture that you care about your people and they're learning, you'll be more effective as an organization. The data is pretty much undisputable.
Yeah, absolutely. And one statistic that jumps out at me is the great individual contributors are all of a sudden main managers. And they've had zero management training. They say actually over 68% of people say they've never received any formal management training. So picture yourself as a great accountant or an FP&A person. All of a sudden you say, all right, here's 10 people that you're going to work for you. What do you do? So that's why I really enjoy working at the AMA, to have a difference in people's lives and be able to change behavior for the good and help them succeed, which ultimately helps their business succeed.
I have to give a shout out. I first became a manager at American Express, and almost immediately they put me in some training for leadership, how to manage and stuff. It's a couple-day training. You did a really good job there, but many other companies, not so much. And like you said, the other example I think of, take financial modeling, right? We get out of college, you take a role, you're asked to build a model. You've never built one before, you've never had any training. Corporate finance is terrible at providing modeling training to employees. But if you go into investment banking, you are building a model till you've had some training.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating because it's like, okay, is the investment banking more important than our budget and forecast and all the modeling we do in corporate finance? No, not really. I would argue different. They're both important. So I just think sometimes that training, we can really fall short. And I know it wasn't until I got some training quite a while in that I was able to build even a halfway decent model. And I'm like, I wish I would have had a good training course to get me started. I wouldn't have had near the pain learning it as I did.
Yeah. And one thing that frustrates me a little bit at the AMA is that we have well over 30 courses that are CPE credited courses for CPAs, but yet that's not our sweet spot. Our sweet spot is more the manager, supervisor turning into a manager. And, CPAs or accountants or people of finance and FP&A that got great technical skills. It's almost a given that you have those technical skills, but understanding and learning those power skills or soft skills, that's critical really to any organization.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I often will call them human skills. I'm not a fan of the soft skills like you. There's others, I've called them power before. I've even said essential. A lot of people didn't like that one because like, well, the technical are essential. I'm like, I know, I get it. But so important. When I teach FP&A, we spend probably more time on soft skills than we do on the technical because there's plenty of resources for the technical. You can learn that. And most people are solid on the technical, but the area where you're going to advance your career is generally not the technical. It might get you that first promotion, but after that, you got to start showing that you have the leadership, the business partnering, the empathy, and list goes on and on.
Presentation skills.
Yeah, presentation, influencing type skills. So I'm with you. So I'm curious, how did you end up at AMA? Because I know you spent a long time public as a CFO, going kind of to a nonprofit training organization. What led to that decision?
Yeah, I've been CFO of 3 different public companies, which has its own challenges, mostly in the technology arena. So it's been fun, and especially my career started in the 80s in public accounting, and then as I became CFO in the 90s and 2000s, the technology world was changing so quickly. So that was fun, and I've also been CFO of some private companies. And what attracted me to the AMA really was now I can make a difference in people's lives. I've been through so many things and so of what goes on in an organization. Because as a CFO, similar to an FP&A professional, you see the entire company.
Yes.
You know what's going on in all the departments, more or less.
You know where the bodies are buried.
Yes, you know where they are, exactly. And, so I wanted to sort of end my career, for people that can't see me, I have a little bit of gray hair, not too much gray hair, but I have a little bit of gray hair. And I sort of wanted to try to have an impact on people's lives, and in particular people in the finance arena. And that's one of the things also that drove me to write this crazy novel.
When it comes to business planning, staying ahead means planning smarter. Whether it's forecasting, budgeting, or long-term strategic planning, you need a solution that's built to scale with you. That's why more growing businesses turn to Workday Adaptive Planning. It's designed to empower organizations to move beyond spreadsheets and into a connected, agile future. With powerful AI, Workday Adaptive Planning delivers insights that help you make better decisions faster. Our advanced data visualization and powerful reporting tools make it easier to elevate your budgeting, planning, and modeling. It's time to start planning smarter. Discover how at workday.com. Love it. And well, I'm glad you're doing that. And it's always great to be able to give back and make the difference. And we will make sure we keep the lighting just right so nobody can see any gray at all. Because I know there's only a little bit anyway. So speaking of writing, you recently wrote a fiction book with accounting as the backdrop, international crime thriller, I think you called it earlier, called Green Shades. Tell me the story there. How'd that come about? We don't see that very often.
Shades, and I'm holding up to the camera.
Yes, I have my copy
Available on
upstairs.
Amazon, everywhere else. Obviously, you've seen the show links later. Really, what drove me to write this, and it only took me about 10 years to write it, but it was fun. Originally, I started off as an accounting research book, but then I realized something was going on in the accounting and finance profession. When you're at parties, when you're out in the world, you always ask, what do you do? And as an accountant or somebody in finance, you go, yeah, I'm an accountant or I'm in finance, but, and you have to, the but has to, you have to describe like, no, it's not boring and technical. It's kind of adventurous. You're seeing everything. So I got tired of kind of hearing that you're having to give that but answer. So I wanted to create a book that has a hero as an accountant, like a Jack Reacher type character. You have all these series on various shows, Netflix, for example, with, you have a cop or a CIA agent or a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer, but there's no accountants that are heroes. So, and that's really what drove me to write Green Shades. And when you write basically two things. You write based on what you know and based on your research. When my book takes place, a lot of the book takes place in New York City, where I am now today. A lot of the book takes place in Australia, where I spent 3 years with KPMG there, as well as in Barbados and India, where I spent some time with various businesses. So, you write what you know, and then you also write based on research, and you're able to look at research. So the book is quite a journey. The protagonist's name is Dex McCord, kind of a cool character who I'll give a little synopsis of the book. Dex McCord is a senior manager at a large accounting firm in New York City. He asked his friend in Australia to do a simple audit of an XBRL facility that is data mining and helping SEC filings be converted into XBRL before the file with the SEC. Well, his friend that he sends to do an audit up in India comes back to Australia, and all of a sudden, a few days later, his body is found up dead on the northern beaches of Sydney. And then when McCord goes to the funeral, he starts finding out that the authorities say it's a surfing accident, but it wasn't a surfing accident. There's something going on behind his friend's death. And from there, it goes around the world, and not only implications in the finance arena, but also international implications in the political arena. So a very different story that most accountants would read and most accountants would see. Of course, there's a lot of information about accounting in the book, but in order not to break up the fun, exciting story, that information for finance and accounting and other things and SEC filings, that's all the exhibits in the back of the book if people want to learn that, or if they want to learn what are salaries of big accounting firms for various levels and how are partners paid, for example.
Got it. I love it. So what was your favorite part of writing this book? What did you enjoy most?
Yeah, what I enjoyed most was just sort of reaching out for the research to some of the experts about, for example, some of the book talks about insider trading and algorithmic trading. So quant trading, how does quant trading happen? What kind of quantitative data is utilizing in quant trading compared to some qualitative data, which is a little bit more soft. So doing research like that was a riot, and reaching out to some friends and making some old acquaintances. And since the book has been out for the past 5 months, it's been amazing how many folks have reached out to me that I've known decades ago, or new people have reached out to me. So it's been a lot of fun in that respect of hearing people's stories and saying, we finally have a hero in accounting, this Dex McCord.
Is that mostly kind of the comments you hear? Is something around we have a hero, or what's the feedback you typically get?
Yeah, the feedback I typically get is that I didn't realize that someone in finance could have such an adventurous background and understanding and do so many different things. In my own opinion, for example, when I was working in Australia, I took a plane and a helicopter to the middle of nowhere to a gold mine in Queensland. Now, what kind of do people think accountants do those type of things? Probably not.
Mostly just do my taxes is what I think.
Right, exactly. Let's see, taxes. So, accountants do all sorts of different things, and people in finance do all different things, and that's why I get back to the finance world, the FP&A world. You're exposed to all facets, not only of companies, but you could be exposed to all facets of industries. So you're not pigeonholed into one industry necessarily, like you, Paul, with started American Express or whatever it may be. And you've branched out to various things. And even myself, I've been CFO of a technology company, of a company that put automated cameras in basketball arenas around the world that follow the action, of technology services companies, but also a green oil. We were making oil out of animal fat, another company called G Oil. So various industries, which that's the biggest thing is people say, oh, finally people can see that you're exposed and you see a lot of different industries as accountants. So maybe it's not so boring. Maybe we need to change the perception and the image of finance leaders and people in accounting.
Well, my basketball fandom thanks you for the automated cameras in the
Yes.
arenas.
That's right.
Quite a diverse. I don't think people realize finance in general, the role they can play. I think there's often that stereotype, and particularly FP&A, like you said it earlier, and I've heard CEOs say it. There's really two groups, or I'd say almost two people that have a 360 view of the business other than the CEO, the CFO, and typically FP&A, right?
Yeah,
And
that's correct.
One CEO who came from finance, I love the way he described it. He's like, I want my FP&A team to help peek around corners, help me kind of see where we're going. Or as Carl Seidman's put it a few times, he called it, one of the most important skills for FP&A people is that ability to anticipate. We're trying to help anticipate where we need to go. That's part of what the budgeting exercise is, and forecasting and these analysis we do. It's not just about doing the analysis. It's that insight and that intellectual thinking that they really want. The model is just a way to project it.
Yeah, that's why it's so critical, that critical thinking, that business acumen to be able to forecast and project trends. And that's what business leaders are looking for. FP&A is a unique position, as you said, Paul. You can be speaking to the CEO directly or the CFO directly. There's not many other groups or individual departments that could do that.
Yeah, or the CRO sometimes too, right? All the different leaders.
Exactly. Yeah. Operations all the time. Exactly. All the different leaders. So that's the biggest feedback. One person said in particular, you finally disclose that like somebody in finance could do anything in any country and be successful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so a lot of people have shared that, there's the fun, there's the fiction side of the book. But what do you hope people learn or take away beyond just, hey, finance can be fun? Is there some educational, technical stuff you're hoping people to get with all those exhibits? Kind of walk me through that side of it.
Yeah, it's twofold. One, for the person that's familiar in the finance world, is to realize that your profession is cool. I hate to say this, but I'm trying to make accountants cool again. So we've been the trusted advisor for years, and maybe I should make a Maca hat or something, whatever it may be. Let's make accountants cool again. And my protagonist definitely does that. So, but for the non-finance reader, to learn a little bit about accounting, to learn a little bit about what's in SEC filings, how much data is in there, what's the process of companies filing with the SEC, what's the process of black box trading, for example, what do auditors do, simple things like that. So I think a lot of people who read the book come back and say, I didn't realize all these things are going on in the finance world. I just thought I have to send my expense report in again. Oh, geez, and deal with the accountants on all the errors. But then, most folks come back and say, wow, I didn't realize all these things are going on behind the scenes.
Numbers are the language we speak, but especially, FP&A, other areas that are forward-looking, treasury, accounting, critical, but it's kind of that backward-looking. Nothing wrong with that, but right, it's get the historicals right. You get into the financial and that forward-looking, and there's so much strategic stuff that goes into it beyond just the language of numbers. And, accountants can play a role, obviously, in the strategic, but typically, their focus, the general accountant, not as you move up, is, hey, how do I make sure these books are right? How do I make sure we have good data? As I always like to say, FP&A's best friend is a good accountant, because I can't do my job without that good accountant.
That's right. The other thing with green shades too, I always have to warn people, that there is some violence in there. There's some sexual tension and romance that goes on, but there's also numbers in there. But the scariest thing to them is that there's some accounting equations in the book too, so they could be scared by that as well.
All right. Well, let's make accounting equations great again.
Yeah,
Again, I don't know.
No, but as you know, Paul, too, or hopefully some of our readers know that the CPA industry in particular is sort of in a crisis. Since 2000, there's been a 40% plus decline in people taking the CPA exam. That has various reasons. One reason is they extended the credits, that you almost need a fifth year of college to take the CPA.
Correct. Yeah, I know
credits,
about
and
that.
that's starting to be addressed and corrected. But part of it too is image and branding. And I open my book in some sort of way changes that image and brand to realize that really this is a very cool profession. There's really neat things you could do. You can travel the world as an accountant and see different things. So the pipeline issue is a real problem for the finance industry, and hopefully my book will do a small part of getting someone young in college or high school that reads this book that might say, hey, wow, maybe I should be an accountant.
There you go. If you want to be an accountant and you're not sure, read Green Shades first.
That's it. That's right, exactly.
Or pick up the phone and call Greg,
Yeah.
Listen to this podcast. Lots of options, but
Yeah.
there is one. He's working to make that difference. Love it. So I think we've done a good job kind of talking about the book. That's been a lot of fun. I'd like to get your thoughts. You've been a CFO at a lot of companies. What's the number one thing you're looking for? Characteristic, trait, skill set, however you want to define it, when you're hiring an FP&A professional?
The biggest thing, one, is, believe it or not, outgoing personality. I want someone, and it gets back to the storytelling. I want someone that can communicate well and present. You think I would say someone technical, that's a whiz in Excel and can do all these things. But no, the number one thing I would like to see is someone who can communicate and deliver in a smart way and present their findings. So true. And come up with recommendations. What bothers me the most in finance is people always present you with problems. And I always say, well, go away, come back with that problem and tell me what their recommendation is. And so those are the type of critical thinkers that, also business acumen, having common sense and deliver what they're supposed to deliver. But that's sometimes a fault that, again, getting back to the technical skills, they're too focused, laser focused on getting the right answer, when often there is no right answer. And often you do have to throw some mud pies against the wall and see which ones stick. And that's common in FP&A, that you have to be bold. You have to be that voice in the room, that calm voice in the room to say, this is what I'm seeing. This is where we're heading. And boy, somebody's moved our cheese. We better make some changes.
FP&A Guy here. Today, I want to talk about the FP&A Guy's Ultimate FP&A Course Bundle. This bundle includes over 10 hours of content recorded by Ron Montero and myself, many templates, and great lessons to make you a better FP&A professional. The content includes FP&A business partnering, how to manage tough conversations, build world-class relationships, and hold the business accountable. Includes modern Excel, which is a real game changer for the way you'll work in Excel. Excel tables, the gateway to modern Excel, Power Query, a game changer for transforming your manual processes and loading data, and then dynamic arrays. Next, we cover modeling design principles. In this course, we talk about the importance of designing models in a certain way and how important it is that you think about design. And last but not least, driving value through smart analysis, how you can conduct data analysis to be a better FP&A professional. Go ahead and sign up for this bundle at thefpnaguy.com. That's thefpnaguy.com. Use the code podcast to save 25%. Get started learning today. Yeah, you have to be capable of delivering both good and bad news while staying relatively emotionally neutral. And I mean emotional in the sense of getting overly, tied up into it, but you still have to have passion and show that you care about it.
That's
So
right.
it's a different type of emotion. And it takes a skill set and practice. And I tend to agree with you. I don't know if I would have said that outgoing personality and presenting is the first thing I looked for, but I've always thought the technical skills for the most part can be taught. Do I want someone with them? Yes. Are they going to have a leg up if they have those all else equal? Of course they are. I think anyone who tells you otherwise is probably lying to you.
Yeah.
Right? Unless they just like a challenge. But you don't want someone with just technical skills who can't help with the other. There may be times it's an appropriate role. I once hired somebody that he was a statistician and data experience, and he wasn't someone who wanted to present or is outgoing, but I need someone to fix my data on the back end, and that was his full role. He wasn't a traditional FP&A hire. I hired him for a very specific purpose and said, I'll take care of managing the relationships because until I have good data, I can't do my job.
That's right, exactly. And you definitely need those people in the background that can create that. You just want to try to hopefully groom them to be a little less introverted and be out there.
Yeah, and he was great, and he got better, and it ended up being a fabulous hire in this case. So I was really happy with that. So, we got your thoughts there. You've been a CFO for almost 30 years. I'm going to ask you a little bit of how you've seen the role change, but I'm going to get your thoughts on something. Someone asked me this the other day, and I was shocked. I can't remember who it was. It's been one of those weeks, but he said, when do you think the term CFO first got used? When do you think people started using it?
Wow, that is a very good question. My guess would probably be in the as soon as the 30s after the stock market crash. That they might need someone to have a little, look at the numbers now. There's some things going on, but that it might be that old. It might be working now on almost 100 years of the CFO role.
I said probably early 1900s. The person goes, yeah, you would have thought that. 1970s.
Wow.
It was really the first time the CFO term started getting used.
It's probably because the CFO role has evolved so much over the years of being a bean counter, backwards looking.
Yep.
You starting in the 70s with everything changing so quickly.
Hyperinflation, the interest rates, that stagflation period, and conglomerates started to become big. And
right. So CEOs started realizing, I need a finance person attached to my hip. I need someone to be my advisor. And that is surprising.
Yeah, I was shocked by it. I would have never guessed that. I thought you'd find that really interesting, and I think our audience will as well. It goes to show, even though finance accounting has been around forever, this idea of finance as a value creator and a C-level role and really being critical to the business is new and developing. It's in our lifetime.
Yeah,
Not that old.
Very true. Wow.
So I think that's fascinating when I heard that. So speaking of being a CFO with almost 30 years of experience, how have you seen the role change in your time?
In my time, it's a lot more outward facing. You weren't put out as much with your stakeholders. In the beginning, as a CFO, I was more particular internal to a degree. And then as public companies became more under scrutiny and Sarbanes-Oxley and investors really often want to talk to the CFO and not necessarily the CEO sometimes. The analysts in particular. The analysts they rarely talk to the CEO sometimes. Seems like the analysts spend most of the time with the CFO. So I say the role has changed there. Our stakeholders have increased, and not only your investors and your employees and your shareholders, obviously, but also the community. The community wants to hear what's going on from a financial standpoint. So I would say the CFO's audience has gotten wider, and the expectation that you are a trusted strategic advisor to the CEO to ensure, I always told my CEOs, my number one job first is to keep all of us out of jail. we have to,
Hard to argue with that one. That's at the top of my list. I really don't I don't look good in pinstripes.
because believe me, I've had a few CEOs want to do some crazy accounting, and you have to educate them. No, you can't do that. It's too dangerous. So, the role has definitely changed in that, the CFOs are much, much more involved now with all aspects of the business and really attached to the hip with the CEO. I sit in my, the office right next to me is my CEO.
Yep.
And I probably spend half the day in his office, and he's probably spending much of the day in my office. We're that close that we're constantly communicating and talking. So that is the biggest change.
It makes sense. What about FP&A? What's the biggest change you've seen there?
FP&A was sort of an afterthought, or wasn't labeled as much 20 years ago. And so now it has become much, much more prominent. Now it just like the CFO and controller's always been there. The FP&A person now is a given. It is reliant because the FP&A department, again, they have to work with everybody in the organization. They have to see everything in the organization. But rather than tell the story of what happened, they're expecting to say, okay, what's going to happen? What's the forecast? What's the trend? What's happening out there? And that's why it's so important, I think, in the FP&A group to get different sources of information besides internal information. Go out there and get SEC filings. There's a plethora of information by industry that's buried in the millions and millions of pages that are filed each year with the SEC. And it's just a right click to get it download into your Excel spreadsheet. And so it's, that's important. So the FP&A industry has changed in that. I would say, just like I spent a lot of time in my CEO's office, I spent a lot of time in my director of FP&A as well in her office.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're really an integral part now of the company. And, they work with all the leaders to say, this is what we need to look at. This is what I'm seeing the trends are. And this is what we have to look out for.
I hear you. In many ways, FP&A is kind of a mini CFO for that general manager or whoever they support. We're seeing more and more FP&A people become CFOs.
Yep.
We're seeing more CFOs become CEOs.
Yes.
Interesting stat. Last year, it was over 30% of S&P 500 CFOs that left their role, left it to become a first-time CEO.
Wow. Yeah, and that does not surprise me at all. The back of my book, Agreed Shades and Exhibit, I end it with a story of the CBS CFO when they were purchased by Viacom. All of a sudden, the Viacom CEO kind of got a little bit of a Me Too trouble. And who did they promote to CEO? The CFO. They needed to make it steady again. And I further go on to say how much money he made when they were bought.
Yeah, don't remind me of that kind of thing. I'm just trying to survive. I want my 10 million, 100 million.
Yeah. A friend of mine I played softball with at KPMG now is doing well on the beaches.
Yeah, I'm sure we all have a few friends like that. All right, so I'm going to jump into our kind of fun FP&A section. I have a couple standard questions I ask people.
All right.
To get their thoughts. So we'll start with this one. In your opinion, what's the number one technical skill FP&A professionals should master?
I would definitely say storytelling.
Okay.
Which includes communication and presentations.
All right. What about soft skills? So I call that technical. What would you say on the soft? I thought you might have flipped that. So that's the soft human. We'll go storytelling, communication. Totally agree. What about technical?
Technical, I would say to ensure that one, they're not Excel, but any power tool, tools to use, they master that. and that it's integrated with various sources of information internally and externally. Unfortunately, I think Excel still dominates that technical tool, but so important to be able to leverage those tools and understand the information and data that's going into those tools.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing the job Excel has done, right? I mean, we're all going to use it. Do we sometimes abuse it? Yes. Is it ideal for everything? No. But the fabulous tool. I sure love Excel for a lot of things, and it's amazing how far. But they like to say, if everything is an L, all you're going to use is a hammer. And kind of like Excel, if you think everything is supposed to be in a spreadsheet, all you're going to use is Excel. And sometimes you need a purpose-built tool. Whether it's on the analytics side, the reporting side, the planning side, there are a lot of great software that can help supplement what you're doing in a spreadsheet. And I say supplement because you're not going to replace the spreadsheet. It's not going to go away, whether it's Excel or Google Sheets or some other alternative. You still need it.
Yeah, there's enough application programming interfaces to bring in disparate information into those Excel spreadsheets that it's just
and Power Query has a lot of data connectors itself. There's, I was talking to a company, they're getting ready to release, and they'll have a freemium version. They'll pay it as well, but connections where you can easily integrate with like 250 sources, including QuickBooks and Xero, and so it's becoming so much easier to connect your data.
It certainly is. It certainly is.
All right. So this is kind of a fun one I like to ask because I never know where people are going to go with this one. If you could wave your magic wand and change one thing about FP&A, what would you change?
Oh, first of all, I would probably put on my FP&A hat, which Paul was nice enough. He's got, for those who are just listening and not seeing, Paul and I are both wearing his FP&A hat, which is Paul, I love this hat. He gave it to me at the Financial Accounting Technology Expo a couple of weeks ago. And
I have to thank my wife. She picked it. And at first it's kind of like a white, like we'll see it. And I got it. And I'm like, I love it.
I've been wearing it nonstop. It's great. It's raining here in New York, which hasn't rained for months. And I wore it to the office today.
Love it. Thank you.
You got I got so excited about the hat, I think I forgot about the question.
I'll ask it again. If you could wave that magic wand and change one thing about FP&A, what are you changing?
I would say the receptiveness and perception of what it entails from employees within the organization, of how important it is and how you need to tie yourself to someone in FP&A if you're going to succeed in the organization.
Love it. That's a great answer. Now we're going to get moved to the little more personal section where we get to know a little bit more about you. We know you love writing thriller, romance, accounting books. But we'll learn a little bit more. What's your favorite hobby or passion outside of work?
I would say softball. I played baseball, Division I baseball in college and at William & Mary in Virginia. And I just continued. I played a little bit after college, hardball, and then started playing softball, and I'm still playing. And the biggest thing about that is not necessarily the game; it's the camaraderie. It's the folks you're playing with. And I even play in a co-ed team. It's a lot of fun.
Love it. I remember, in Utah, we had one of the top fast pitch softball teams in the world. Larry H. Miller ran it. He was a big softball guy. He loved softball.
Yeah. So now for me at this age, playing with younger kids is always a challenge. You have to be careful out there, but I really like that. But also, I'll play. I like golf and like fishing.
Sounds like you like to get outside and be active.
Exactly. You're in the office a lot. You want to be outside.
I hear you. All right. Other than Green Shades, what is one book you'll recommend to our audience?
Oh, yeah. So many of them, but I would say Rise to Rebellion by Jeff Shara. And what that is a historical fiction book about our nation and our founding fathers. But what makes it unique is that position that takes the view of both sides, not only the colonialists and what we're trying to, the revolutionists, or what we're trying to succeed from, but also the British what they were trying to do. So I read a lot of historical fiction books, and Jeff Shaw and his father Michael Shaw that did Killer Angels about the Battle of Gettysburg. They also did World War One, World War II books, and that kind of also helped me write Green Shades. And respect that Green Shades is almost an accounting historical fiction book with how the SEC's Edgar system developed and how XBRL came about and how quant trading started to happen. So maybe that in the back of my mind, that kind of drove me to write an accounting historical fiction type book.
Got it. Yeah, no, I remember when we chatted for a few minutes, you mentioned you really liked historical fiction and that was an area you read. So it makes sense. All right. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? Were you 5-year-old thinking, I want to be the accountant? I'm going to guess no, but you tell me.
I grew up on Eastern Long Island and out on the water out there. And I met this tugboat captain once, and he romanticized the profession. So originally I wanted to be a tugboat captain.
I like it. Yeah, it's funny how sometimes you hear someone talk about it and you think that, and then as you get older, you're like, wait, no.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. That seems to be a little bit of a lonely job and dangerous potentially.
Definitely could be. All right, I'm going to give you 2 options with this last one. You can pick between the 2. If you could have an alter ego, what would your alter ego be? Or if you don't want to have an alter ego, if you could be a superhero, who are you going to be?
I think the alter ego would be my choice, and what I would probably want to be would be some kind of improv actor like Robin Williams or something, to be able to be sharp, but be funny and have people laugh at your jokes and have high energy. So probably my alter ego is an improv actor.
And it's funny enough you mentioned improv because I've had 2 people on the show, Carl Seidman, Kathy Svetina, who both said one of the best things they did for storytelling and presenting was they did improv comedy.
Oh, really? That's great.
One of them did a year at Second City and a year someone else. The other one did 6 months at Second City. I've also heard if you want to be a great podcast host, that's really good to do because it forces you to be really quick on your feet and responding and things. So there you go.
So maybe that'll be my professional retirement. I'll do improv. So,
all right, you let me know. I'll come to New York and watch a show.
All right, great.
All righty. We're going to wrap up here. I got one more question, and then we'll finish. What advice would you offer to our audience to be a better FP&A business partner? What should they start doing?
What they should start doing, I said the biggest advice would probably be get up from your desk and roam the halls. First of all, come into the office. As nice it is to have remote work, and it works for a lot of people, try to be in the office as much as you can, and then roam the halls and sit down and be with people and listen. Be an active listener. That's the biggest thing that AMA teaches is really active listening. And don't think about what you're going to say next, but really engage who you're with. So I would say the biggest thing is get up from your desk and talk with people. Be in front of people. They'll tell you. Maybe I learned that from my auditing days. You just sort of have to wind people up to just ask them what they do, and they'll go on. And so that's how you learn.
Love it. And got to tell this one story because I think you'll laugh at it. I think it was Brian Lapidus who tells the story. It might have been someone else. But he was telling someone he had this employee that did virtually no work and was just not very helpful. But he was always talking to everybody, and he would always come back and tell them something that the finance team didn't know, and they were able to prepare for it, kind of telling how he was terrible at what his job should be, but he was also really valuable because he could kind of communicate with everybody and always brought back this good information of what was going on because he was always out talking to people. And I just kind of had to laugh, it's like, that's really valuable to have.
It is. He was on reconnaissance. That was it. That was his mission.
So last part here, if people want to learn more about you or get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way is one, you can visit my website at cpa-author.com, which you could send me an email there, greg@cpa-author.com, or you can even reach out to me at AMA, at the American Management Association, at gadams at amanet.org. And also, Paul, if anybody wants to take a AMA course and learn some of those power skills, for the first 3 listeners, I'll comp them a course. Our courses are $2,000, $3,000, so they're not cheap. 2 or 3 day courses, either in person or virtual. But just reach out to me and I'll be happy to say, but make sure you say, Paul sent me.
All right. Well, there you go. Couldn't get a better offer than that. Thank you so much for that, Greg. I have a feeling you'll be hearing from some people to take advantage of that. If not, I got to worry about my show. If nobody reaches out, I might be like, why am I talking to all these people?
Yeah, exactly. Now, Paul, it's been really great speaking with you. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it, but also, the importance of the FP&A professional is really escalated over the past 10 years. And it's really nice to be a part of the finance world. And hopefully I can make a difference on changing the brand.
Well, thank you so much, Greg, and real pleasure chatting with you, and you enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to FP&A Tomorrow. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and a review on your podcast platform of choice. This allows us to continue to bring you great guests from around the globe. As a reminder, you can earn CPE credit by going to earmarkcpe.com, downloading the app, taking a short quiz, and getting your CPE certificate. To earn continuing education credits for the FPAC certification, take the quiz on Earmark and contact me, the show host, for further details.